Welcome and welcome, all of you. I saw an old video of back in the day, 2017-18, with CZ being tiny, and I would open my videos with "Hello, you." Things got a little bit. I let that go at some point. Anyway, it's Friday.
It certainly is.
It's time to gather. So welcome. And if this is your first time, it's highly unlikely. but I do want to say thanks to Hippie for sharing the link. So thanks, honey. Appreciate that. And is there anyone else we want to?
Well,
make
just
a
thank
quick mention
everyone
on?
for stopping by and
Yeah.
listening to us. I have to apologise. I sound a bit nasally and but
Bunged up.
because I have hay fever.
Hey?
So if I sniff a lot, I apologise in
Yeah.
advance.
Yeah. I was watching something on viruses, and there's such a, again, it's a little bit like the atom. You've got to wonder whether we've just been told that squiggle on the computer screen means this. It's the same with the squiggles they see in the sky. We see the squiggle, it means there's an exoplanet. We've determined that it's this far away because we're using this mechanism to determine that.
Is it because they're using materialism to try and explain away something that perhaps we don't fully understand? And so there is a lot of assumption.
Yeah, materialism was, perhaps it's just been this epoch where materialism has been pushed very hard. But certainly in the last 200 years, there has been maybe 400 years, there was like a culling of people who spoke a different language than that of Rome.
But also, it's a great way to hide that we're energetic, right? That
Of course.
and of course, if we're energetic, that means the ether. That means
A creator.
An eternal
And a direct heritage to said creator. A direct lineage.
because with energy there is no beginning and end. It's just a dance. Whereas with material, something ends, right? It is or it isn't.
It is or it isn't.
Which is the globe, essentially, isn't it? It's like it's this limited rock.
Are they stealing something in just in the mental and the physical, or are they stealing something in the spiritual? I would say that's the agenda, surely. It's not just this messing us around in the material and physical. But hey, I see that Nathan and Penny, or at least Memorial Gardens, I don't know if Penny's alongside, but hi guys, nice to have you here.
I've been
in the lifetime.
I was reflecting on that actually, because your name used to pop up when we were on the Globe Light tour, and yes, we were actually looking at a few. We found some old videos, particularly around Zizi, and one of them, and photos, and one of them was Zizi having his first ice cream in Venice. And during the time, Adam in particular.
1st of November.
Yeah, Adam in particular, but others would donate money so Zizi could have ice cream. And I think he pretty much
had an ice cream
in every place we
European
stopped.
city
And that's pretty much how it is now, right?
Yeah, that set a kind of set the pace, as it were. Anyway, but so nice to see you, Nathan and Mark Swabrick and Alex Michael. Thank you very much for that intro music, by the way. It was beautiful and relaxing. We've been using your stuff to relax. So, cheers, mate. So yeah, I mean, what's been going on in the world? I went into London on Sunday and took the opportunity to go to Speaker's Corner with my new banner. And when I first got there, I decided, I was umming and ahhing about two places to put it, but I decided to put it kind of right in the sort of heart of where the majority of people gather and yell. It wasn't so much yelling in the beginning, and I guess if any of you watch it, you would have experienced it worse than me because it comes through the microphone, perhaps, in a more pitched way. But it was pretty intense in there, and I had a couple of really good experiences, one of which I'd like to share, and that was two ladies approached me and said, "Hey, do you remember us?" I kind of did, I suppose, but couldn't be, They were like, "Well, we met you here 3 years ago, and you told us about distilled water, and we went home and started distilling, and we still distill." And in fact, she had a copper water bottle, which was awesome. That was really, really monumental to kind of just that. I actually didn't continue the conversation into, has the other stuff resonated. I didn't ask them that. But yeah, so it was an interesting and challenging kind of session. My tech was also playing up. I won't belabor the story of that, so I end up kind of making 4 live streams, interrupting them because of tech issues. Anyway, I did move to a different location, but the energy was intense, and I was, funny enough, we were reflecting on the energy we've seen in the streets just today, actually. So intense energy, but that could just be the environment that I've moved around in for a little while. But I did come back on Sunday.
Can I just stop you?
Pretty knackered.
That's what we do, right? We excuse it away rather than
brush it off,
like allowing it to be.
Yeah.
He was exhausted, and I think when you go into, I call it the lion's den, and you're with all these competing energies, you're having to, you should have incredible energetic hygiene, to kind of protect yourself. I mean, what Dave has started doing is when he gets back is showers, and the clothes that he's wearing, they go straight in the wash because...
In the fire.
Because, you've been in these... all these...
There's a lot of that anger, but then there's also a lot of, obviously, I know Alex is a long, fair way away from any Wi-Fi, but and we are fortunately right now in a place that's quiet and very little smog of that sort. They've definitely been putting pillows in the sky this afternoon, and they've been doing it quite a bit lately, but I think when you spend a lot of time in that, then your body will adapt. Probably, I'm not suggesting that's necessarily such a good thing, but the body does adapt to these things.
I don't think it's a good thing at all.
But I think when you say that, it's like there are people whose lives at the moment are trapped in that, and it's more damaging, I think, to think every night when you go to sleep that I'm being fried, because you're actually, that mantra is actually harmful. I think
fried is the wrong word.
No, I'm only...
It's toxic
okay,
load.
Well, again, so all I'm offering is that, right now, this month, we just happen to be, a long way from any Wi-Fi's, and aren't we fortunate? But, the truth is that we are in this world, and it is, so many people live within, a few hundred meters of a fairly powerful tower nowadays. And ideally, that wouldn't be the case, right? And ideally, people would find themselves, try and create a situation which they're not in such a Wi-Fi kind of soup. Anyway, it was just one of the things that I think that drained the heck out of me and had me like, whoa, that was heavy duty.
I actually saw someone did a test on the earbuds, the Bluetooth ones. And the frequency that was coming off them, that obviously you're having to process. And so that's why when I say toxic load, you can't get around it. It is, and some people are less sensitive to it, but it is still something that your body's having to process.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so, we can't pretend that it's not something that we have to process. It's a wave that's going through your body, and the more you're in it, the more you have to adapt to that. I think I think we do, but
Yes.
it doesn't mean it isn't having an impact on you.
Well, like Kippy says, negative energy, very draining on body and frequency. Imagine going into an office environment that you really don't want to be in, and you've got that all day. How much after a year or two is that hammering you? But in the case of a job and the earbuds, and even that you live near a 5G tower, there are. I think we can still take action. That's because we are the creators.
Well, this is the
we
energetic.
should be exercised to find that better option going forward.
Well, that's the energetic hygiene I'm talking about. It's like how do I before or after, you can go in there sort of even, with the mantra that I'm creating this boundary, but certainly afterwards, the grounding, the finding somewhere peaceful, being in a forest, listening to the birds. The bird song is incredible. Resting, allowing your body to.
Some people were
alchemize.
impressed with me being barefoot, and one guy walked past because I'd said the earth is flat or something to him and his girlfriend, and he hollered something unpleasant about me not having shoes on. C'est la vie. But in terms of street activism, there's two, I think, weather permitting, there's going to be 2 sessions next weekend. Dean and Sarah are going to join me, and we will go to 2 cities, one of which is probably going to be Oxford, and one other to be decided, I think. So that's coming up next weekend, Saturday and Sunday. So I'll send a reminder, and I'm sure you'll be sitting on the edge of your seat, waiting for that to kick off. So that's that. Yeah. I had an amazing experience this week. A young man, 15-year-old, I guess, maybe 16, wrote me a very thoughtful letter from Australia about how the message that I put out, the work that I've done, has been of inspiration and given him courage on his journey. Sorry about that. Billy boy.
Billy, it's okay.
Billy boy.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Sorry about that. The dogs get exercise when someone comes. Yeah, sorry, the dogs have thrown me off my stride there. Oh yeah, so this young man had learned of my content from his father, actually, who has previously supported us. So, it wasn't like the YouTube algorithms had done me a favor. It was, his father. Anyway, so, but just really, and I guess Alex, if you're still listening, you must get plenty of those where, your content has made a difference and changed someone's trajectory. Met a flat earther here in the week. Him and his daughter came and bounced on the trampoline with us, which was fun. But he's only a newcomer, really, relatively speaking. He's a COVID convert. Worked it out fairly early on in 2020 that there was something seriously wrong, and then been down the rabbit holes. So still very much on the journey, but he, what was I telling you about?
I think you were talking about the contact you had.
Oh yeah. He'd come across, not mine first, but he'd come across my content. So for him, it was quite surreal that his daughter was on a trampoline bouncing with me and Zizi. But yeah, so it is nice to know that you are actually making a positive difference. So those ladies with the distiller and that young man, I'm humbled by that, and I want to do more of that, though. Tony Whitcomb, nice to see you. D'Angelo. How's it? I think I think we spell how's it with a Z, don't we? Not how's it. How's it? It would be with a Z, Mabru. So yeah, so that was like a real highlight of the week. Getting that communication, you know. Reminds me now of that lady who wrote to me about her brother being off the streets and clean, thanks to our interventions. Well, that's good news, Tony. Guidework said to me, "You've broken me," as he believed in space and the globe. That's awesome. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, it's a really tough pill, and which is why we get so much pushback. Yeah, the mind wants to stay in the familiar, wants to stay with what it knows. So when you try and shift gears or you try and peel back the layers, you know, the mind's always going to it's going to fight back, or it'll shift. And we were kind of talking a little bit about that, weren't we? Where, you know, often when there is this experience of awakening, for want of a better term, I'm not really keen on the word, but haven't found an alternative, is that we'll often shift into another label or box. The mind very cleverly does that. And I think I may have mentioned this last week, but you know, it sort of parallels or mirrors what's been happening in the flat earth area, or the truth area, where, you know, through certain things that have happened, it's allowed people to, if they choose, of course, to see what's hidden. And I'm seeing this sort of ripple effect happen in, you know, the spiritual community, the sort of love and light community. So that's kind of that's been shown, and I find it fascinating because obviously from the astrology angle, you know, we have Pluto in Aquarius in retrograde, and Pluto wants us to see what's hidden, wants to see how we're giving our power away, and you know, I think that's certainly the case. And then another area that's been spoken a bit about, and in terms of its darkness, is AI, and more in terms of, for me anyway, around, you know, content creation, and there have been a few people that have put out videos recently, haven't they, talking about it, and in sort of my little coaching astrology world too, that it's an unfortunate byproduct of you know, Aquarius, and of course Pluto's cleverly showing us how, you know, there is the darker side to it, and how incredibly real it all seems, and how good it is. And I did a little video this morning, which I still have to edit, around it, and how more than ever it's going to require us to deepen and you know, have that remembrance and that connection to our intuition and to our discernment.
Yeah, I was imagining a situation where we were seeing, you know, like what looked like real images of buildings being turned over or whatever in another part of the world, and we were told that this is them doing this to those people, and we need to respond to that, where the whole thing, you know, we wouldn't know it because we're out of touch with that country, but the whole thing is just, I know obviously you guys are all going, yeah, well of course they've been doing that forever, like with, you know, creating much bigger story out of a, you know, a front line or a conflict than they need to.
I think it's also deeper than that, right? It's stripping people of their of their ability to create, because when we write, when we act, when we do art, when we do anything that is creating, even a job you might do or a home you might do, when we are handing that over to a technology, then again we're giving our power to something else. And our friend that came to visit the other day said he has a friend who it's now normal and common practice for half of his job to be done by an AI element. But certainly in when people are doing written sort of online content, it's starting to become apparent, if you have the eyes to see, that it's not authentic, and I think it's a slippery slope. And yeah, I think it's very much got to do with the creator power, and then also being glued by it. And this is not anti-AI, because this is just that there is always duality, and there is a dark side to it, and there is a choice point, and if it's used as a tool for whatever, then so be it. But I think the internet started as that. And in fact, we were talking about that now, it's very hard to find content that's unless you really know where to look, that's about flat Earth. It's all debunking or whatever. So yeah, the more important point is that I think now more than ever, to being able to really listen, and not with your ears and not with your mind, but with your heart, with your gut, with your body. And to do that, we have to feel, because that's what's going to give us the energetic information as to whether it feels right or wrong. And it's not necessarily that we even have to go, that's wrong, and it's just like, it doesn't resonate with me. It doesn't resonate, and so therefore I'm just going to move along, and I'm not going to connect with it. And it's just a really interesting area, the online space, in terms of all
I heard
of
this
that.
and I heard this interesting idea that the AI was basically I'm not saying I believe this, that it's able to rip information from the ether, the Akashic. The problem I have with AI is that, well, not the problem, but the observation I make with AI is that it's tending to just repeat, stuff from the books that come from the mainstream, right? So, and so, but what, it's going to, of course, it's going to become incorporated into people's existence, or our existence perhaps, but people's existence much more in time. Of course, we could talk about all the different ways it's going to up-level to the point where it's an integrated body and a piece of technology that is, doing the thinking perhaps, and monitoring things. So that's not far away, and that's coming, and there's a lot of people cheering for that. So I don't that's humanity's kind of trajectory, in my view, and that I don't see that as like, oh well, we have to stop that trajectory. I'm not vexed by that. It's just that's the way it is. It's like people in 2020 did really silly things, and can we be vexed about it now in 2025? No. And if we go back to that time, we're like, okay, so knowing what we know, share your message, but don't get vexed about it, and all these things that are going to happen. I mean, this is a game, so
But it all comes down to choice, doesn't it? And it did back in 2020, and it does. But where are you making that choice from? I think that's a really important
I agree, and
question.
I think the choice is, or the choice comes from the gnosis of who you are and what you are, and the knowing that you are this divine, you know, expression of God. We might be the temple of God, each of us, and so.
But where are you knowing that from?
From your heart. I mean,
It's
from
not,
within, from like deep within. I know obviously we are without as well as within. We are connected to, and that's maybe part of our journey, is that connection to that. But you can't genuinely connect. That's why Flat Earth matters. You can't genuinely connect to it unless you know what you are and how you are in concert or in connection to it. I really think that. So.
And for me, that means us being able to be with all our feelings and not making any of them bad or wrong, even fear. It is allowing it to be there and allowing it to move, but actually feeling it. I think it's a necessary part, and can often be an uncomfortable part, because a lot of it we've been spending our lifetime running from. But equally, I think the search that we're all on, to find out information, is also the search for something that has more meaning, because we know that this experience has more meaning. We have more meaning. We're not just this being that is born, goes through school, is lucky to have some incredible experiences, and works their backside off, and probably ends up in a whole lot of debt, falls ill, and then dies at 75. That there's more to this, and it's not out there. It's actually all here already, and it's the connecting back to that. But I think it does require an embodiment. I don't even think I know. I know from my own journey that it requires an embodiment.
That's where I think that for me, either I'm not ready yet or whatever, but I feel like there's that kind of, to get that, there is perhaps a cleanness of existence that I am still, heading towards on this mountainous path that I'm walking upon. So I look forward to that, but I don't feel like I have to be this year. No, 2025,
well,
I have to be that kind of.
Listen here, we're all on the journey, right? It doesn't. It's like there's no destination. There is no.
Exactly.
I'm there now.
Exactly.
And this is not. I actually want to dispel that this is like the super woo-woo, I have to be some, spiritually evolved being that is doing all these supposed spiritually enlightened things. It's actually really simple, and, it is actually just being with yourself. It's being with yourself. And, we all have things that we're drawn to and that resonate and that we're remembering, and it's only the mind really that says this is how it should be, because then that's the box again. And we're all have this unique opportunity to have this experience and this expression, but in a more embodied, sovereign way. For me, sovereignty is the expression that comes through me. And we've spoken about this recently, a lot, because it's been part of our own journey, how we've outsourced that, and that happens very, very young, where we hand our safety and our worthiness and our value gets put onto the outside through our experience and through things that we are told. And that's what I mean. It's about taking it back. But with that might be resentment that you weren't seen and heard. There might be grief. There might be a fear. It's a really odd thing. But when you've been being a certain way, and then that starts to, you have awareness over it, and you start to reconnect, it actually feels very unfamiliar. For instance, joy. the wondrous feeling of joy without any substances or anything outside of you that's allowing is very hard for us to feel, because most of us haven't been able to be in that experience. Being in the experience of possibility, and that I can truly have what I desire, is so foreign for us that it often feels safer to be in the cage, a bit like Shawshank and what was his name?
Andy Dufresne.
No, the old man who would rather have been in, who'd rather have been in the prison because it's all he knew. And that goes for our nervous system and our experience and our field, and what mothering felt like, what joy felt like, what playfulness felt like. It's all attached to a memory of what our experience was. And when you start to do something differently, it feels unnatural, and often we just go back to what how many times have we seen where, like 2020, people woke up to and now they've just gone back to their lives. It's like it didn't even happen.
Yeah.
And that's because it's familiar. It's familiar, it's comfortable, it's not confronting.
Go back to the Netflix. But these are the most exciting times. These are the most exciting times,
Totally.
It's like I'm almost impatient for the cogs to turn and things to happen, to be honest. But these are exciting times to be alive, and to begin to get closer to understanding ourselves in a way that a century ago perhaps impossible, maybe a few centuries ago people knew intrinsically.
Well, this one I have to offer my little astrology nugget, because Saturn moved into Aries after being in Pisces for 2.5 years. And Saturn in Aries is the autonomous, independent warrior, wants to take action, wants adventure and wants to move forward. And obviously Saturn there is like, it goes against what Aries wants to let go. Let's go. And Saturn is, no, let's slow down. It's considered restriction, but let's slow down and, let's do the work to get us there. So for the next 2.5 years, it will retrograde, but for the next 2.5 years, and you might feel that there might even be a sense of frustration or.
When does that happen?
That happened on Saturday, the day before you went into Speaker's Corner.
And the day before Friday, when I had a difficult day and difficult stream in my mind. Anyway, I was struggling a bit. But, it's so much about the energies, guys. So much.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, and there's this building momentum. There will be, the more Saturn moves into that, this building momentum of, taking action or maybe having to confront stuff that's sitting there, depending on where it is in your chart, of course.
Angelo says, especially after Pisces. He was also saying something earlier on in Afrikaans. So I ended up saying, spelling H-E-R-E, and I've probably said that, you probably heard me say this before, but in Afrikaans, in English that spells here. In Afrikaans that spells God. And I think that that's a clue, that God is here. God is here. Temple of God. Tony, about the... So we went and invested in like a web, like a GoPro with a microphone and stuff, and just had such a mission getting the GoPro to work on a live stream and stuff like that, and it doesn't have the same battery capacity.
Let's also be honest,
blah, blah, blah.
Dave doesn't really like to shift to something new. So the moment he hits a hurdle with it, and he's always doing it when he's wanting to go live. So he's not really practiced, let's be quite honest.
Yeah,
he's not really practiced in any other place. And of course, it also tends to be in city centres where we think that a lot of the time there's this whole messing with the connection. So it drops out quite a lot. We're fine-tuning it. We have to practice.
But I do feel for those watching going, the quality is poor.
Well,
Yeah,
we're
so
working on solutions. We're working on solutions, but I do think there needs to be some practicing. So maybe this weekend we'll do a little bit of practicing out and about,
Yes.
and see whether we can get it to
Yeah.
to work.
Yeah.
Interestingly, we're in Gemini, which is all about communications. In fact, today there's what they call a cazimi, which is really just the Sun and Mercury are on top of each other, and so therefore the Mercury energy is expanded, and so what generally it's what is being revealed to you in that case. But Gemini is communication, Mercury is communication. So
well, there you go. Leave my rights alone. Sometimes in the phrase "mehira," my here. Yeah, we use that phrase in Afrikaans. Mehira, we would say like my God, like you would say in English, my God. Mehira, and hira being here. And then I even think that what they've done with the English or the American English is to say, became very popular, and everyone does it now, is, oh my God. And I think that the way that we say, oh my God, or oh my God, oh my God, we're being mocked by the language we use, thinking that we're being all like, oh, I'm blaspheming against myself. Mehira. Thanks for that, Tony. Obviously, it's one of those things that in the ideal world, you would have that rig that kind of answered all of those questions, and it did all of those things. But maybe we can talk about that sometime.
Yeah, I think we need to really spend some time practicing to get it all working. Unfortunately, again, you are largely relying on a good signal, and a lot of the time that's the problem. Is even your phone can't hold the signal.
Yeah.
And that happens in city centres a lot. Whether they are scrambling the signal or there's just so many people in the area, so the signal's poor. So a lot of time that's one of the biggest problems, isn't it? Is the dropping out.
Yeah.
And then sometimes battery. Dave's sometimes for hours he's doing it, and it's frying the battery. So, and of course you've got backups, but sometimes that just all doesn't work. But we're definitely on it, and we will.
Yeah, and the idea of doing like a 7-8 hour stream in the future again is certainly appealing to me, So it was a little bit regretful that I only had a few hours, but it's all good, and it's good to have my hand in the game. Nice to see you, drone pilot. I know who you are. 80. Good to see you yesterday. Yeah, thanks for coming over. We enjoyed it very much, and we'll look forward to perhaps doing it again. If you don't mind me telling you, he is a COVID convert, and so welcome to the club. And I would respectfully say that I think that it's a ongoing journey, and so even if you've been in it 10 years or some people 20 years who we encounter longer than us, they're also still learning along the way, and we continue to...
Can we be the teacher and the student?
Teacher and student.
Can we be open to...
Master and servant.
To learning.
Master and servant, I like that. Let's play master and servant. Come on, master and servant.
There's another way of looking at facilitator and participant, producer and consumer. They would happily have us just in the consumer.
Well, I go from, someone coming to me and telling me that, I've had a positive effect on their life given the work that I do in that way. And then in the next moment, I'm picking up dog turds for someone in their garden and gardening for them, So I like the master and servant element of that. I'm quite happy to be doing a bit of physical labor and gardening. It's not beneath me. Whilst when I get the opportunity to engage in conversation with some of these people, they go, "Okay, this guy knows more than your average gardener," with respect. So hey ho. Angela asked if we're going to Bournemouth in August.
Are you Bournemouth in August?
What's happening in
Yeah,
Bournemouth?
what's
Sven?
happening in Bournemouth?
Yes. I don't know what's happening in August, to be honest.
We don't.
Other than the monthly.
We don't have any plans at this point, but we're remaining flexible.
Yeah, we are going to Spain in September.
Yeah.
And that's, shaping up to be going to be a fun weekend. So, if there's anyone who's eager to come along, then get in touch.
Yeah, I think if you can, if you can confirm as close to 100% as possible, that would be awesome. Just because there's a lot of people interested, and obviously there is a limit to how many people can attend. Just
let me say it again in
capacity.
case you missed it earlier. Next weekend there will be 2 live streams in the street, Oxford being one of them. And Andrew said, "Oh, maybe I could record you doing a thing and a speech." And I was like, "Yeah, last time I went there and did that, or that time in 2018, that became such a moment for me."
It's full circle, really.
I hadn't planned to do a speech. That was just like, off the cuff.
Well, it wasn't really a speech. It was more like a
tirade.
It was more like the town crier, wasn't it? It was just off the cuff. It was just something that you felt you wanted to express.
So it'd be nice to go back there. I think we've been to Oxford once since then on one other tour, but I might be mistaken. I feel like I've been there one other time.
Anyway, we'll try and see if we can find the same spot that you were at.
So if you're in the Oxford area. 80, if you're around, then maybe we can hook up with you. So that's all that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool when people come out and join. That's why we love having Sarah and Dean here. Well, it's mostly Dave that goes out to do that, but I'm hoping to go along to the Oxford one. So yeah,
So you guys have been enjoying the. I suppose the weather's different depending on one way you are. In the Americans, how is your politics is all pretty. There's so much interesting stuff happening, eh? And you see some good things coming out of RFK. They're stopping this and they're stopping that and so on. So a little nibble at the pie there and a little nibble at the pie.
What's stopping things they shouldn't have put in the first place?
Okay, yeah, but there, in the kind of material way, there is some interesting progress being made there. I'm still of the mind that people are being played and they're just playing the long game with RFK but I look forward to it, and it may be, because it may well be that the intention is to eventually have people aware that this tsunami of unwellness that's beset us is because of that. And
are you talking about them removing the mandate for children and pregnant women? But I mean, that's disgusting anyway, isn't it?
Of course it's.
I mean,
it's all.
I know, but you're giving it to one that they can never test. Nothing is ever tested on pregnant women and children because it's just not.
Well, it's unethical.
Yeah,
so let's just do it like a worldwide mandatory.
But yet we're still giving them these things, and it's just it's a crazy thing. For me, it's like it's a bit like the whole cannabis story, right? Where it's like, oh well, we made it into a criminal offence, and we completely skewed its use. And I was talking about this on my video today about how even like stinging nettle is seen as a weed, and yet it's held so much incredible medicine. And then they'll go, oh, okay, well we're gonna legalize it now. It's not going to be criminal anymore.
Give you permission.
We're going to give you permission, and it's like, well, hold on. And people are so grateful.
Since when did we need permission to use plants in the garden? But I mean, for you guys, I mean, I know, having met quite a lot of flat earthers, the giggle twig is very popular amongst that group. And it may be like, for me, even though I never really questioned the main narratives, I was like unsure as to why all my life, why don't we really know what happened with JFK? That was always a question. But because after the age of 20, when I started smoking the giggle twig, I kind of always knew that the government was full of shit, because that whole thing was like, come on, man. I've gotten into way more trouble with alcohol than I have with that, and most times people are just chilled with it. So
but they also have just like they have with the food chain, they have a say in how it's grown, and often it's also grown in circumstances because people are trying to hide it, and therefore for me it still has a negative energy
and when
around
you
it.
use it, because there's a negative energy of I'm a pariah, some dressed up clown can turn up at my door, smash my door in, by the way, just because I'm sitting in my garden, puffing on my billy here. So, Albert Billy, nice to see you. Kathy Broughton, yes, mandate is not a law here in the UK either. I don't think it's really mandate. Just means an offer. It's not like a law. And when the police pushed me off the beach in South Africa in Durban, Christmas Day 2021, when I was flying without a face nappy, they said, "But don't you listen to our president?" Why should I listen to him? I hope you enjoyed my Zulu accent there. The meetup in August is a big one that Martin Nika and Dave Murphy are going to Rise Above channel organizing. Oh. Yeah, okay. Alrighty. Well, we'll have to see where we are in the world at that point. Yeah. Because we are thinking of bouncing to Spain, sort of around that time or thereabouts. Opportunities need to come. So we'll just keep an open mind on that. So thanks for letting us know. THT, at least it's hot enough. THT. You were playing Master and Servant, the music, or were you? That's something you and your wife get up to, Tony. Which is cool, whatever works for you, floats your boat and all that. Doesn't have to be buoyancy dysregulation. Yeah, alcohol is promoted while THC is discouraged, and we have seen that, on our travels so much. Well, you all know that. I mean, it's ubiquitous. Go ahead and get boozed up. Now, I don't speak against people having a bit of booze, but
I don't think it has to be one or the other. We don't have to make the one thing wrong because the other one.
Yeah, but I think obviously that there has been an intention to get us all pissed.
Yes, but my take on addiction or needing something is that often, we're using it to. It's a solution to a problem if it's something that you need to have, rather than
I don't have a problem, Don.
Plenty of people have a drink, and and it's not just drugs or alcohol. It's food. It's screens. It's just relationships. There's can be all sorts of ways where we are codependent on something to be a solution to a problem. So,
but I think the human body is so incredible that if like you have one vice and then the rest of your stuff is clean, it's like your body can cope with that. I've met people who they've lived to 100 and smoked, and so it's like, I know it's a combination of factors,
Yeah, it's so nuanced, and it's an individual thing, because one person can have a sensitivity to it, or their vice can be something. I think it's more understanding the why, rather than necessarily that it's okay to have one vice, because someone can have the one vice and it's destructive. I think that those are the important things. And for me personally, if I wanted to think it's curiosity, right? It's a curiosity around what is it I actually need right now, and it's not about not having that thing, and it's not even about shaming you, because it's often a shame cycle that comes with, you know, let's even say chocolate or biscuits, or mine was crisps. You know, what is that thing giving me that I'm actually needing?
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing about crisps is the sensation of the crunch and the salt is actually causes a contraction.
Right.
So often we're wanting that salty crunchy because it is fulfilling a need. So yeah, it's not just, you know, we tend to focus on the sort of drug alcohol area, and of course we label it as so disgusting, and obviously you know, it can be very destructive, but you know, it's
So can veganism, but you know, you allow people to be vegan if they, you know, people can be vegan if they want to be vegan. Sorry to any vegans out there. Yeah, well, good for you, Kathy, who stopped drinking 12 years ago. You must be bloody thirsty, though. You know, it's one of those interesting things they've done with the word drink. Hey, I'm going for a drink. No, well, drink is water. And that's what we drink. You know, alcohol is not a drink. You know, but it's even soda pops. People will say that's a drink. No, that's some kind of soda, sugar kind of thing. This is what we drink. We drink water. We're made of water, and we drink water. And quite a few coffees, but
we have a coffee addiction.
Well,
and we aren't quite ready to
kick it. And I don't know that we need to.
No,
I mean, we could constrain it a bit, because some people go like, "Whoa, if I drank as much coffee as you, I'd be."
Well, let's move away from that. Let's use the gym. There are people that will use the gym or exercising as a way of not feeling, because if you are busy and you are moving your body and you know you're disassociating with it, then that can be addiction too. And it's the why. I think, you know, so, and it doesn't mean the gym and exercise is bad. It doesn't mean alcohol is bad. It doesn't mean that these things are bad. It means can we be curious about the why? And if it's fulfilling a need that maybe wants something else, because often, you know, like chocolate's a perfect example. You know, we'll feel that feeling and we'll go, oh, I need some chocolate, and we'll have the chocolate. And of course we know that sugar experience will give us that feeling of love, the endorphin. But it's a false sense. So it's not, it doesn't actually give you what you need. It just gives you a version of it. And it's a very short-lived thing, which is why, you know, if you are addicted to a drug, that you need to have it more and more. I mean, you know, we know people who are you know, cocodamol is something that they can't live without.
Can't drink tea though, Albert Billy. I'm not a tea. I mean, I do drink the odd occasional cup of tea.
Yeah,
really,
I like a herbal tea.
Like once my daytime coffees are behind me, then it's only water. But of course, I'm drinking water, or you know, most of the day as well. But tea and tobacco, beer and weed. That's that's pretty healthy combo. But yeah, no, life is for enjoying, and the thing is that, you know, like they do with religion, is they make you into the sinner. It's like the last thing you want to do is, you know, be putting that on yourself and go, well, these things that I do, that makes me, no, man.
But what is the sinner? What does the sinner do though? How does it make you feel?
That makes you feel shit. And
shame.
Shame.
And shame is used as a way of manipulating and
so what do?
someone.
I go and eat even more chocolate or whatever. But but the thing is that if we have this clear sense that the most important thing here is your temple, you know, mind, body, and soul. That you know, as part of that, then, you know, the body needs you know, a certain level of, it would benefit from a certain level of maintenance and, you know, clean living.
I think our body is our technology, and I think
but if we're throwing cement down the pipes, you know,
totally.
and that could be any, that's a metaphor for any kind of sludge. It's not. It can handle a little bit of the cement, but eventually it will get clogged and blocked, I think. Obviously, as someone who smokes regularly, I have to think about that myself. But I do try and keep my lungs moving, and keep a healthy thing. And then this life is also for enjoying. But I accept the point that are we sometimes or often overdoing a thing, shopping, eating, drinking, whatever, because of something else that's operating and causing us to do that? I would suggest the answer is probably yes.
It's a solution to a problem. And I say that without taking away the element of shame, with compassion, and and self-responsibility, because actually it's only me that can decide to do it differently if that's what I feel I need. Obviously, if you're affecting people around you, then that's also an opportunity to go, well, actually, what am I doing? But more importantly, does this feel good for me? And even if there is a shame cycle, there's something going on. There's a pattern repeating where it's like, your dieters talk about this all the time, or people who have issues around their body and perhaps weight, and they will be on a diet, and then they'll end up eating something that's not on the diet, and then there's the whole guilt, shame, and then of course you feel so bad that then you need to fill that void and that feeling, and so you eat more, and so the cycle just continues. So for me, it's more like it's an opportunity to explore what is there something going on there, and that was actually me and cigarette smoking. Is like what I started to notice there were times where I wanted it, and so I started to ask myself what it was I needed. And of course, with the cigarette smoking, it's your lungs. So it's actually
Chinese medicine. Lungs are.
Lungs is grief, and so it's that for me. It was that experience of disconnection, and I was seeking the connection through the cigarette. And actually, when I could stop and be curious, now, that has allowed me to not need them, or if I do, to ask myself the question. And it's not about saying no, you can't have that, or you can't have that piece of chocolate, or whatever.
You can't have honey. Alva Billy's learned not to have honey after 5 p.m. unless he wants to stay up all night. She's obviously very fit. But
you're so funny.
Thanks. You don't like coffee, it's too bitter, hippie. Well, we have it with double cream. So the drone pilot who was here earlier on, he's part Italian, and he came around yesterday and loved the coffee.
There is some people that say that actually one coffee a day, particularly around the 10 o'clock mark, that because of its bitterness, it will stimulate your liver, and it will really help you focus. There's some that say that the only place coffee should be is in an enema bag.
We're going to try that this week, actually.
And so there's different schools of thought, and I read this is again where it comes to like really knowing yourself and really being connected to your body, and I think our body tells us. I remember we were house sitting for a couple in Cornwall, and she was saying, I can't get enough
honey.
No, seafood. And I said to her, do you consider that you have an iodine deficiency, and actually you know that you need the seafood to supplement that? And she was blown away by that, because we don't think that actually there's something that our body is telling us, is giving us a message. So
I see Martaria is in the house. Nice to see you, Marlika. Hope all is well over in the Welsh side. See, Lightning drank too much coffee. My hip and neck joints became painful. Quit coffee, and 2 months later the pain went away. 20 years later, no coffee. Well, I've been having a little bit of joint pain in my hips, and I have to confess, one of the things I've reckoned on is, my caffeine addiction. So it might, I might be forced to throw, toss the coffee pot out. I don't think I can toss it out completely. I'm sure I'd be able to find room for one a day. But, the temple comes first.
Interesting enough that I was starting to have pains, and for me it was I got rid of carbs, but gluten in particular, and that completely went away. So again, that's why we're so individual, and what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another, and that's where we have to be mindful to say, no, this is how it has to be. You have to be a vegan, or you have to be a this, or you have to be a this, or you have to do that. We're all different, and what works for one doesn't necessarily. I mean, there are some fundamentals, but
we try and have our last coffee by 3 or 4. It can stretch a little bit occasionally, but they're only small.
Yeah, only small.
This is kind of like the size of a coffee mug here. And
we're not having this size coffee.
Yeah, it'd be one like that, because we have one small pot and we brew it up and share it 3 ways.
Look at you all sheepish about your coffee.
No, I'm not sheepish about it. I think, but it is obviously... I love the coffees that we have at the moment, but I also know that, there's... everything in moderation, most things in moderation,
Totally, that would be said for exercise, chocolate, screen time,
honey,
just everything.
Don't spill too much seed.
And more importantly, are you prepared to listen to your body and be curious about whether the thing that you've always done wants to shift or change? I think that's the important thing.
It's groovy in Wales for Martin. Good to hear, mate. Oh, I just heard just before you came on, maybe there's something going on in August in Bournemouth. So you and Dave Murphy or something. Good. I make a pot of coffee twice a week. Bloody hell, Albert William. I'm not coming around to your place, man. Sorry, that's just not going to happen.
We love our coffee at the moment. It is actually one of the very few things that we have that in our diet.
Dandelion coffee, JT,
we tend to be fairly clean and everything, and are really working on our livers and being, so you know what? For now, it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I could try decaf, hippie, but it's the caffeine I'm after. I'll be honest with you. That's the taste as well, but I think that there is clearly an addiction there, which I'm I'm using you as my therapy group right now.
I'd rather quit, because decaf, they've had to put the caffeine, they've had to put the bean through a process to make it decaffeinated, and then it's just like, what's the point? So for me, it would be, and I have done, when I was doing my training, we were put on a special diet as a way of cleansing our bodies.
I'd like to try that one that they say, the one that comes through the elephant's intestines or whatever. That's going to be one of the best ones, but I've never tried that. But yeah, hey ho.
I think it's okay. I think everything in moderation. It's like, this is not about us being purist or perfect.
Yeah,
for sure.
After coffee, I switched to cola. Yeah, no one in their right mind should be consuming cola. I'll be honest, I think in the last year or two, there's been 1 or 2 occasions where someone like Luke has been at a table and said, I'll have a Coke, and I've had a mouthful just as a,
it's very thing. Sweet now that we're
very
not
sweet.
Used to it.
There is something about the fizz on your tongue.
But especially now that we've cut out all sugars and carbs, for me, it's just like, it tastes rather off-putting.
Not a good idea, any of those things.
Yeah, I mean, our coffee is good coffee, and it's and we were even sourcing A2 cream,
A2 milk and
organic cream. So
A2
we're trying to have
the dog's bollocks. The cow's udders of milk is A2. Look out for it if you can. A1 doesn't have the same enzyme or protein or whatever that makes it really. And they've done survey tests and stuff where people on A2, people on normal milk have allergies. People on A2, those same people don't have allergies.
So it's more. We tolerate it better.
Dean's body tells him to drink coffee through his mouth. Dean is coming here next weekend, and so I'm not going to let you use my enema bag. You're safe, mate. But
Well, we could offer it to him if you want to do,
you know,
but that would probably be...
the coffee is obviously not cooked. The coffee, it's an uncooked. It's a green.
Well,
organic
actually, Alex
thing.
Michael Shelley is she's
actually an expert.
Yeah, well, when it comes to detox
wouldn't say
protocols,
pro. That
when it
would be
comes to
rude.
detox protocols, she
Yeah.
knows her stuff, and
She
the
does.
point for
He knows music. She knows detox protocols. Right.
the point with the coffee enema is that
She could be enema guru.
That's
Coffee
so
enema
funny.
guru.
The point with the coffee enema is that it stimulates the liver, which is why you have to lie on the side of the liver for 20 minutes. It stimulates the liver to allow it to release glutathione.
Glutathione,
which is what,
remember the word.
Which is what our body makes naturally, but because our livers are stagnant,
Sluggish.
they're not making it. And it's one of our major antioxidants. And so when you can stimulate the liver to make glutathione, then you're obviously allowing the liver to detox better. And you know, the liver, which is is so important, and its ability to have its detox pathways open are like
carry on.
they are so important. So so coffee enema, and it's not the same coffee that you would use in a coffee pot to drink. It's green, preferably organic, because you don't want to put any more toxins in. In fact, the one we've just ordered, it's been tested for everything, because unfortunately coffee can have, it's known to have mold and and all sorts of things.
I was looking for something. Zizi got these like little plastic tubes that you can stretch out, and all the concertina kind of stretches out.
Do you want me to get one?
Yeah, you can do.
Yeah, I know where that are.
I want to show you these because us men, we're pretty frightened of anything around the back door, right? It really takes like a whole mind shift, which for me was like, whoa, this is, I'm sweating just at the thought of what I'm about to do. So it's not easy, but what I learned in 2017 when I did enema for the first time was that the pipe work that is called, rectum and all the goodies that go further up is actually crenulated a little bit like this. Now, can you imagine, right? And it's all crunchy a little bit this way, and then it's got a bend this way, and then it goes this way up here, and then it turns this way, and so on. Now, can you imagine spending 50 years passing mud through this pipe, and then saying to me, oh, it's perfectly clean, don't worry about it. Last time I went to the old Donald Trump, sat down and dropped the kids off at the pool, that was it. It's all clean up there. No, it's not, my friend. And what happens is that because it's not just a piece of plastic, it's actually living tissue, it has the ability to flex. So over time, say little bits of detritus get all gathered up in here, over time it stretches to make allowance for last night's curry to pass through. And so it just stretches and stretches. Not only that, in these crenulations and grooves and whatnot, you got little material from that party you had in 1975. It's been sitting in, okay, some of you weren't necessarily alive then, but stuff has been sitting there, and particularly, actually, one of the things I realized is that when the material that's in here, your body has the ability to pull water out of it, which is why, let's just say, I know I'm being a bit graphic, but I'll try and go easy on it. But let's just say you haven't gone for 3 days, right? What's happened in the meantime? Has the material inside got softer or harder? And of course the answer is harder, and it kind of hurts on the way out. The reason it's got harder is because more liquid is being drawn into your body through the pipe. It's actually sucking shite water out of your pipe work in order to kind of just do what it does, right? It keeps stripping water out of this. And so what happens, I think, when we drink alcohol is that we cause a dehydration event, which I think causes like just a little scab or two to remain inside here. And every time you have one of these dehydration events, there's a little bit of more material that gets caught up in here, and your body, for years and years and years and years, is having to manage that. It's very good at managing it.
Well, I don't think it's just the dehydration event. I think
No,
that
no, it's
if,
not
the,
just
if, the,
dehydration,
if the liver is not able
Yeah.
to detox,
Yeah.
which is where this glutathione
Yeah.
comes in, then that's also going to not
Not-
because actually the back area is one of our major detox pathways. Our mouth, our skin. You know,
You don't have to be a rocket scientist.
the two holes
Isn't that
and
it?
our skin and our breath. And you know, that's why breathing properly, you know, being able to go to the toilet regularly, and sweating is so important. But also that your liver needs to be able to send these toxins out these pathways, and if it's stagnant or it's not. And just by the way, in Chinese medicine, anger is the liver, and also it's also expression. So our creative expression comes from our liver. And
So why people get like so ebullient when their liver gets wrecked, like, you know, you're pissed and what have you? Do you think it's
yeah,
'cause they're like,
absolutely.
"Hey, look,
Yeah,
I'm really
and the same with your gallbladder. Your
Social.
gallbladder is rage if it's stagnant, but also it's also expression. It's like the gallbladder allows it to move. I just thought I'd show you I don't know if you
bag
can.
of products.
That's so you can
We
see.
are not affiliated to this
No.
product.
Detox organic green enema coffee. So and this,
How much is that?
This particular one was 20 quid.
Bloody hell, I could go
but-
down Costas and get a whole lot of coffees for that.
But it's you only have to use 3 heaped tablespoons, and this is 400 grams. So you know you're going to get a few goes out of it.
Right.
And this particular one has also been it's been checked for all nasties. So
There
it's
you go.
been
And you want obviously distilled water, ideally, if you're going to be making that up, and you don't want to be putting it in hot. Too hot. But I just want to, before you go on, I just want to say, you know, like in all seriousness, like for me, when I took this on, and I wasn't using distilled water in the beginning, but when I took this thing on of doing the enema nonsense, right, I was amazed at the things that, you know, the collection of things from those parties back in the 80s that were like, whoa, what the heck was I hanging on to, you know? I was doing other protocols at the same time to try and break out some of the, you
well,
know,
again, it's the toxic
little
load,
living
right?
characters
You
in
want,
there,
you're
you
trying
know,
to help your
metals and things like that, yeah.
you're trying to help your body.
So it's definitely...
Actually, it's
Definitely, and you know what, guys? Like seriously, we know that these are openings into our body, and our back door is not like our digestive system is not dealing with whole foods like it might have done, you know, at one time. We're dealing with a lot of processed stuff that is, you know, and there's metals, as we say, and so on. You know, all of this stuff is collecting in us. Honestly, we have people have bowel problems, and men have prostate, which is kind of maybe why it's on my mind, because I was talking to the gardener today about he was saying, oh, well, now that I'm over 60, you know, the NHS kindly send me a little probe every 2 years, and I can just do a little test, on things. I send it away, and then they tell me whether I'm good to go. Well, okay, that's like, you know, that's passive after the fact. Oh, tell me whether, like, you know, all of those curries I had haven't left like a little, you know, little sludge that's turned into a wound. I really think that we should be doing enemas every few months, you know, once every few months or more often, but at least that.
well, actually,
As our self-care, in the same way as I say, well, brush your teeth, you know, I mean, your teeth are falling out. Why? Because you're not taking care of them. Well, no wonder your prostate's falling out, because you haven't really attended to the cleaning of it. You know, it's an uncomfortable thing. You know, our society, we don't even want to like talk about what's, you know, below the navel unless we're going to bed with someone, honey, perhaps.
But it's coffee enemas are certainly in the sort of alternative treatment for cancer will be something that you would be
that
put
protocol would
on
start straight
because
away if
it
you went
really
to
does
person.
help the liver. You
And
know.
why leave it? Why leave it till C turns up? You know, take things
Well,
into
actually,
your hand.
our personal experience of it is, and Shelley will probably agree, besides it obviously supporting any detox protocols you're on, it's the energy, the shift in energy in your body. It's like you feel so more energetic, and it's like, oh, why didn't I do this sooner? So yeah, coffee enemas.
And actually, for me in 2017, thinking back on that time when I first started stepping over the Rubicon of doing things that, you know, formerly would not have been done to self, you know, was to, you know, because I kind of had this, I already had this sense of our spiritual connection to all, and that we were something super, you know, central, and that this temple, each of ours, was like the gift for here. And so we are to look after the machine. You know, the engine needs oil, and you need to change this filter, and you need to maybe change the brake pads and some tires every now and again. You know, these are the things that we should understandably need to do with our own machine. But they do not want us cleaning our own machine, because, you know, if they don't tell you to change the filters every year, then you come in with a damaged engine every 3 years, and they're making a lot of money off you.
I don't think it's, because again we can make it about like what they don't want us to do, but actually there's also most of us is a disassociation from our bodies, and that's, you know, actually I truly believe is where the ADHD, for instance, physiological change happens. Is it's actually when we experience something in our body when we're very little, and it's too much and too unsafe, we energetically flee our body into our minds, which is why we live our lives in our minds, trying to figure it out. And ADHD is one of those symptoms where that happens, but we're not only wanting to flee our body, we're wanting to flee our mind. So it's this scattered energy everywhere. You know, I remember when I first entered into the space of the work I do, and as for training, and it was experiential, so I had to go through it myself. And I remember a coach saying to me, "Wow, you're not in your body, you're just everywhere." And it was a more an energetic experience of me, and then I've been in her space more recently, and it's like, wow, you look so different. And that's because we're not wanting to be in the body, so there's this disassociation. In fact, we see the body as completely separate, or something that's not, you know, we're not connected to. And of course, yes, it's during this lifetime, it's the body, and then once this is over, then the body's no longer needed. But it certainly is your temple or your conduit for this lifetime experience. So the best we can, if we listen to what it needs, I think.
If we go on about this any longer, we might have to call this the enema episode. And I don't think we want to do that.
Well, I did think. Well, so people go, "Oh, what have you been? You know, what did they talk about?" And we gather, "Oh, well, there's a lot of shit."
Colonic washing and stuff like that. Imagine lying in the shower or whatever for 15, 20 minutes, and then it's gross, but at the same time it's like, yeah, well, if you want this is some of the hard yards perhaps we have to walk, I believe.
Anyway, when you're doing it for the 20 minutes of shower, it's a great time to listen to a podcast that and distract yourself from it. So and there you go, hippie shakes. Ask them to buy you a coffee. Obviously, this is one that you put in your mouth and not in your bottom.
Okay. Yeah. Well, okay. So, that was another conversation there. High testosterone leads to prostate cancer.
Well, there's an interesting.
Why have we got that?
There's also an interesting theory that, again, energetically, and it's very current with the energy right now, because Aries is very masculine energy, and so is Saturn. And so there's this opportunity, we're moving into very masculine energy, where the healing of the masculine to rise to meet the feminine is, and that's our masculine within too. That's not just the external masculine. But because men, their masculinity has been emasculated, or by design messed with, men are not truly in their power. They're not truly in their bodies, and then in their essence and their purpose as the true masculine. I read somewhere where they were talking about that women, but also men, are not going through that normal initiation process, and so we're never maturing out of the very young version of us into our, in particular the woman who goes through these multiple cycles in their lifetime, and we no longer have those circles and honoring those things. And so there is a school of thought that the rise of the prostate cancer is that there is an issue around stagnation, in that the male energy is not moving in the way that it should do. We're talking about this on our walk, where men these days are mostly sitting at a desk. Yes, there's some people that have physical jobs, but they are mostly sitting at a desk, and if they're not sitting at a desk during the day, then they'll be going home and gaming or sitting in front of a computer. And again, I'm not making any of this bad. I'm just saying that there's a change in the way that the masculine is, one being the protector and the provider, and two, collecting water and chopping wood. And obviously we live in this world where those things maybe not, but you get where I'm going with this. So there's that moving of that energy, and the warrior and the king, and being that in their power.
And also, don't you, when you have worry and stress, don't you carry that in your lower abdomen? And so aren't you holding and kind of gripping more there? And I think that contraction is likely to do this thing with this pipe work, is to contract it and so on. So I'm sure it's a number of things. And I noticed that some comments about meat, about the intestinal length and so on. I remember when I was, first researching whether I should or shouldn't drop the meat, that made so much sense to me, that, the meat eaters have a very short, intestine, about the body length, and ours is 3 times the body length or something. But yeah, I'm still in the omnivore camp, rather than thinking it has to be one or the other. However, each perhaps has a value at a particular time, as does fasting. I notice a little conversation on fasting. I think
as a protocol, for sure,
giving the body a time to not to have to do the work of processing. And giving yourself time to rest through that.
I think also moving our body, and also being connected to it. We hold on to so much energetically in our body, and being able to allow that to move. I know that when I go for a walk, I definitely feel better. Like I've given my body that opportunity, or I dance, or to move the energy. So
yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. It's a complex combination of things, and
it's always nuanced, and it's always individual.
Yeah. So yeah, lovely to see you all, Jolly Man and Kathy. You guys are having lots of conversation. Didn't know about your husband either, of course, hippie, but. Yeah.
Sorry, can you just go down? There was a Jollyman. Me also. No, that wasn't that. It was hippie. I just go back up to the hippie. She said, my hubby found out that he has low testosterone due to low thyroid. He had half his thyroid removed.
Was that why he had it removed? Like, that he had low thyroid, so they removed it, or he had low thyroid because they'd removed half of it?
It's because the reason I'm looking at that is because I think I know for a fact that for a woman, I haven't really looked a lot at the masculine. Obviously, we know the thyroid is responsible for hormones, and that actually there's more people that have thyroid issues than they realize, and particularly it's connected to insulin resistance, and it's connected to muscle mass, which is why protein is so important. And actually in a woman post 50 in particular, because obviously I've looked at the woman more, the need for protein and the insulin resistance goes down, which is having an impact on and also we're going through those hormonal changes. But I was reminded today how important iodine and selenium is for our thyroid, and if we don't eat a iodine-rich diet,
like
then we're no longer getting it anymore.
Like kelp, something like that. But so you probably already know that, hippie, but iodine and
selenium, they need to be used in a conjunction. And that we do need it, and we're actually, we're not getting it in our diets.
No.
So obviously you can supplement, but
don't get it from Alex Jones. I remember in the you need your iodine in the event of the nuclear attack. You gotta have iodine. My special $99.99 deal here. You can have it for $33.33, 2/3 off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not about to prescribe what people should have. But my research, for me personally, I know that it was like 1 drop of a very low percentage is enough for a day, and now I've learned that selenium is good to take with it. So, and I know that Dave and I we don't get that level of C or iodine-rich food. So it is something that we are going to supplement, especially for me going through menopause. I feel like it's something that I have to pay attention to, but then also pay attention to my muscle mass, and because it's the muscle that is part of the endocrine system that helps us process all of that, and of course your brain too. Your brain is a muscle.
Yeah. Well, we do our bit to take reasonable care, but in between the copies, and
I think I want to, because I want to give the power to the powers in the people, and so I think the truth is that we know, and it's this, and this is why I keep on banging on about the body. It's like when we give ourselves the opportunity to really listen to our body, but also listen to what it is that there might be other things that we already know. And I truly believe that the reset that we're having is ethereal, and that is what is available to us in the energy and in the ether is just rich with everything we need to know. And then as we do our breathing, and that's why breathing is so important in how we breathe, and breathing through our nose and all those things, and breath work, that it's waking something up in us, and we know, and so it's tapping into that. Trusting yourself, really, really trusting yourself, and that takes, I think, practice and connection and stillness and often navigating the stories that we've been told or we tell ourselves about who we are and who we aren't. and that's the taking the power back, right? Is to really start to trust yourself. And that's the journey, is coming back to yourself.
Coming back to self. we are, I think, the reason for everything here, and that's why I believe that the world that's natural world that's created here should have the foundation, offer the foundation for our well-being. We overcomplicate it in the modern way for whatever reason.
I think everything's overcomplicated.
Yeah,
You know, everything can really be quite simple, but you know, there's all this noise.
Anyway, that's probably enough noise from us for.
Well, we probably sent some people away anyway with
the my lord above
with the enema talk. But you know what? It's we've been reminded, because we haven't done it for a while. We've been reminded that we want to do it. So it's definitely in our field at the moment.
Yeah, just as an occasional thing, you know. But yeah, honestly, I did 9 months of it in 2017, and it was significant. Significant.
So if I can just add one little thing, that in terms of astrology, that there's another shift coming. And the shift is Jupiter, which obviously is that energy it's a very spiritual, expansive, it's known for good luck, and, it's moving into Cancer. It's been in Gemini. It's its final degrees of Gemini. It's moving into Cancer on the 8th of June. But Cancer is all about our emotional needs. It's our security. It's how we nourish ourselves. And so, there's an opportunity to start asking yourself a few questions about, what the expansion into that energy could mean for you. And so that's a week from now. Is that right? Yeah, approximately. Just over a week from now.
Yeah. I mean, just after I do activism.
Yeah.
Next weekend.
Yeah.
See you there for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for that. We're hoping to have our friend Nathan. But yeah, he's got some really phenomenal insights on the research he's been doing, and I'd love to get him to share it. He's kind of also working through his hoop of wanting to be on stage, as it were, given his former career and blah, blah, blah. So I do respect that. But I'm hoping that we'll have him on soon. And if anyone else wants to...
Yeah, we're opening the invitation to anyone else who wants to come and share something.
Yeah.
If there's something you've researched or something that you found fascinating, or even if you just want to, experience being seen in hopefully a space that feels safe, then reach out.
And we're both available for mentoring and coaching where that might feel helpful to anyone. But I am so grateful for you to be coming. Oh, Kathy took herself off thyroid medication. Feels so much better. I see you getting forest fires. Not good breathing this air. A lump came up in his throat, I see. They thought it was cancer. Since then, he'd been on medication. I wonder if you would do it differently 20 years since, whether you've learned stuff about what they think is cancer.
The same with my gallbladder. The same thing happened to me. I had stones and they removed it. And what I know now, I would not have taken that route. I know that actually it was a whole lot of rage that was not being processed, and eventually the body will go no, or it'll try and give you a message anyway. So
some people swear by the apple cider vinegar, a little bit of that in the morning, maybe with some water, to help alkalize the body. And of course, meat, alcohol, smoking, these are things that are acidic in nature, so there needs to be something to, if you're using those products, Needs to be something to perhaps counterbalance that.
Sometimes it's not always a physical fix, though. Sometimes it is something energetic, and there's something that I think Gabor Mate writes a book called "The Body Says No," and there are a few other people that have written books on this, where whatever we don't express will eventually be expressed through the body, and German New Medicine is basically that's the theory behind it.
That it's trauma.
Some sort of conflict that's happened, and the body is trying to bring harmony.
But it tends to be that there needs to be 3 or 4 or 5 different, catalysts. So you've got the trauma plus a lifestyle plus something else, and then the combination of those bring about the event that we call cancer.
Yeah, in some cases, I think it can be something that's not. I think that my gallbladder was the rage.
Kathy asked if cancer is caused by parasites. I'm also asking that question. There's lots of people who say that that's what it is, but we're also aware that the body may be doing this thing of trying to mop up a particular problem and encapsulating it in a bag that we see growing and metastasizing and it becoming unstable.
There's a group on. It's a guy, but he's got a whole of colleagues that work with him on Instagram called Emotional Release. I think it's Emotional Release Institute, but he's started a membership site called Feel, and this is his body of work, is that all dis-ease originates from unresolved trauma and unresolved energetic emotions, which is energy that want motion, and as a consequence, it causes these issues. And yes, can it be made worse by our lifestyle, which is as a consequence often of that in the first place.
I used to say the same thing, Alva Billy, that it might be fungus, that it's like I liken it to leaving a drum of water to get still, and then you'll get that green algae that'll start to develop, and eventually that water will become bad. So, it may be that it's, because like Andrea says, there's an energetic component to all of these things, it seems. But it may also be that it's like sometimes it manifests in this way in the water, like a green little mold or fungus. And then sometimes it's that, as you see in water, little swimming things, the little things that are moving around inside of the water, that have perhaps become what we call parasites, who are now feeding in and around the trough.
Or are the parasites trying to help the body actually bring back harmony? Is the mold, because there was a start of a clip that Alex Zek was talking to Zach Bush, and they were talking about mold and funguses, and that actually it's not the fungus and the mold that is the problem. It's the terrain, it's the toxins that are in the wall, for instance, that the mold is then attracted to try and bring it back into harmony. And we know that with viruses, actually they're already there, and all they're doing is trying to try and help bring everything back into balance. So it's that bacteria that's actually working, and I mean that's cancers, and of course then they come and they start to. I think the problem is then when we start to intervene with what we think is the right course of action, and I'm not saying do nothing.
But a jackhammer for a toothache is a little extreme.
Yes.
We're not fans of the oncology approach. I know obviously people have been saved, but people say the same thing for the COVID needles.
Well, it hasn't been our experience. Our personal experience hasn't been that. So.
Yeah. That's an interesting point, Jolly Man. Farmers have been indoctrinated, not maturing the fields and rotations, keeping vegetation. And the thing is that they're, you know, a lot of them, farmers nowadays often go through university, which is obviously the death knell for any kind of, you know, free thinking. So that's what we see, and the soil is tilled, and even the iron tools, apparently, you probably know that already, as opposed to copper tools in the soil, is damaging the quality of the soil and what's available for the food that grows, and therefore the things that feed on that food, and the things that feed on the feed, that feed on the food, that feed on that food.
Well, it's the whole
That's your thing.
it's the whole biosphere, isn't it? You need it all.
Yeah.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Glyphosate. And the glyphosate and stuff, I think you can't really get it off. Your berries, you can't really get it off. You know, we're grateful that Zizi doesn't like apple skin, and he eats lots of apples. So, you know, we peel them all for him, which, you know, I mean, obviously, if we've been at a house sat at a place where they've got apple trees, then it's just like, you know, tuck in, straight from the tree. But it is a build-up. But having said that, you know, it's not like gloom and doom. We can do these things that pull, you know, cilantro or coriander and other things, of course, charcoal and clay. And
what did I mention the
pull
other
these
day
things
that
out.
pulls metals out?
Tell us. Neodymium magnet.
No, I can't remember.
Perhaps you could swallow a neodymium magnet, and then you might want to do the enema at the end, so you don't have to flush it down the loo. I'm back in the toilet again, aren't I?
Time to go.
I think so. But it's been fun, guys, and we will obviously. Well, we hadn't discussed next Friday, because next Friday Dean and Sarah will be with us.
Well,
so
why don't we get them to hop on with us?
Ooh.
It'd be nice for them to be.
That would be actually awesome. Yeah, maybe they could do a little.
Even if they get you towards the end, it'd be really cool if they popped on. We like having.
Yeah, they cover a bunch of people. I saw Bass Ackwards was here, and they cover him, and Alex Michael, and a bunch, ODD, and some of the others from the thing. So yeah, we'll do that next Friday. Then we'll be here, but before that, Saturday. No, I'm sorry. It'll be Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
You're going to get a triple header, it seems, next weekend. So
yeah.
I look forward to that, and I really am grateful for you coming. Oh, hi, Anna Divine. That's a new name. Or maybe not. Well, anyway, I have had fun, and I hope you have had too.
Yeah, and take really good care of yourselves, and if you can create some quiet time to to just notice how. In fact, there's a free meditation breathwork on my Instagram, where if you just do it and realize how much gripping and controlling and is in your body. So give it a try.
Thanks for those links. Hippie Shake is putting my links out there for Patreon. But where can people find a link to that?
I think there is a link to. It might be on the Trinities or Love True Sovereignty, but on my Instagram under Andrea_Manel, there's a link to with all my connections, all my links. But I think I placed my link tree either on the Trinities, or I have one which I'm just about to post a video on Love True Sovereignty YouTube.
Yeah. There's a little debate. There's a huge debate raging about cilantro, because parsley isn't cilantro, as far as I know. I've only ever heard the Americans talk about cilantro, and that's dhania or coriander.
Coriander, yeah.
We call it dhania the Indians call it dhania in South Africa. I learned to make curries from Indian friends, and that's their culture. So, but yeah, grow your own. Cilantro tastes like soap. Yeah, no, we're talking about different things. Parsley is not cilantro.
Cilantro. Some people do say coriander tastes like soap. For some people, the experience of it is that it tastes like soap. But there are other things that
Put in your curry.
But there are other things that can pull metals out. Like, for instance, some of the clays. Zeolite is a great one. just make sure you drink lots of water.
Awesome. Drink lots of water. Water is drink. All right.